Okay, Timo told you to help Carthagods for some keys and orchestration, but what did inspire you in Carthagods music?
Well, I had I had listened to whatever the band had done before the Monster in Me album. I don't remember if it was an EP or a short album or whatever, but I found it on Spotify and I listened, and I've been following Timo for long enough that I'd keep seeing him post flying to Tunisia to play with Carthagods, and I'd be like, oh, I wonder what he's up to. So I'd listen to it, and I really enjoyed that. It was, perhaps on the surface level, it was like straight ahead, powerful, heavy metal, but there was a sense of, there's some ambition here, there's some drama, there's some longer songs, and I really liked that there was some dynamics in there. It wasn't just straight up riffs for 40 minutes, I mean, I love riffs, but it's nice to have that kind of light and shade in there. And I think the fact that they even had any keyboards and orchestra on the album at all shows that they're interested in light and shade, because there are tons of bands like them who would have just kept it to guitar and been like, this is metal enough, we're happy. But it shows a lot in their musical maturity that they were like, even some subtle keyboards are going to add some depth to the music. So I think, even before I even did a note of work for them, I was impressed just by the fact that a band like them wanted to add something fresh to their sound.
And how was the collaboration, and what was your contribution with Carthagods on their album Monster in Me?
Yeah, well, Timo gave me the songs, and I think some of them had vocals, and some of them the vocals weren't recorded yet, but they had the guitars and bass and drums, and I could listen to them, and then by and large that was all I was given. So I wasn't really given instructions of do this kind of thing here, do this kind of thing here, we want orchestra here, we don't want it here. I was just given the tracks, and I basically just went to town and I recorded mainly orchestra parts. I kind of would separate my work into two halves. I would do the orchestral stuff, which was, mainly in the vein of like maybe the Hans Zimmer Two Steps from Hell style of film scoring, mixed with a little bit of Nightwish, that kind of vibe. And then I did a lot of electronic stuff, so synthesizers, programming, a little bit more on that actually modern electronic front. And I sent it all to them in all separated out so they could pick and choose what do they want to use, what actually fit the song, what was overkill, what didn't fit the vibe. And I didn't actually know what was going to be picked and what was going to be discarded. It kind of seemed that almost all of the orchestral stuff stuck, and a lot of the electronic stuff might have been a little bit too modern, which, is totally cool, because I didn't really know what exactly was going to be fitting the final project. And I like it that way, because that way I can just do whatever the heck I want. And then I'm totally unfettered. I can do my thing. And then I'd rather do too much, and then you take away, what's excessive. So on every track but the last track or the bonus track, I just did that. I contributed the orchestra and synths on top of already existing songs with guitar, bass, drums, and all that. And then Timo told me that they wanted to do the song Rebirth, but just in an orchestral format, as kind of like a teaser, perhaps, of how these songs could sound if they were done in a different way, which was like a really cool challenge for me. So I just took the song, and very faithfully, pretty much with a one-to-one correspondence between like original chorus and my chorus, I just created this film score, modern film score version of Rebirth. And then a really cool touch at the end was we added Timo's solo from the original song, and I kind of remixed it to fit the orchestral vibe. And something that was really gratifying is I would see a bunch of reviews, and a ton of the reviews talked a lot about that final track and how it was so nice after hearing whatever 6-7 songs of heavy metal to hear like the same song unchanged, but just kind of dressed with slightly different clothes can feel so different and can have such different appeal for different people. And it's like such a cool challenge to be able to do that, and so fulfilling that I think it actually reached some fresh ears, people who may not have listened to the original album but heard the remix, and it encouraged them to check out the rest of the album, which is, you know, the greatest compliment that I could receive for that project.
Yeah, I really like this song, the Rebirth. I told them when I hear it once, the first time, this can be a hit. Make it a video clip. Come on.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's really cool song. And the vocal melodies are really nice as well. I have to say that all the vocals are really, really compelling. And it's one of those things where I have a love-hate relationship with really gruff voices, because a lot of times I lose the melody and I just hear some guy yelling at me. But I like harsh vocals. It's this kind of in-between range where a lot of times it doesn't really vibe with me. But I really like his vocals because he never loses the melody and he never loses the emotion. It just sounds really big and epic. So yeah, I love that. I love what he did on that song and on every song, really. So, you know, I'm a big fan of all those guys, actually, and I hope one day we can play together. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, maybe in Tunisia one day.
there were actually, I actually remember at some point we talked about playing some shows together. At least Timo mentioned it to me. I don't know if that was ever actually seriously on the cards or if he was just throwing me a bone to make me happy. But Timo and we had discussed at some point I could play some shows with the band, and that would be really cool because, you know, they're subtle, the orchestral elements, but they are there. And I watched some live videos from the CD release show, for instance, where all the keyboards and stuff were on backing track, and I was actually really pleasantly surprised because I thought they were going to be like this really quiet undercurrent, but they were really using the orchestra to drive the performance, and it just sounded super dramatic and powerful because of that. So being able to do some of that live would be really awesome.